Now the wing supports could be removed. The time had come to do what they had only dreamed of doing for the past 5 years. The runway was 3 miles long, more than enough for any normal airplane. But Voyager was different, her design unique, her wings distorted by the weight of all that fuel. No one could predict how well she would perform or whether she could free herself from gravity. The team had calculated that the plane would need a speed of 87 knots for takeoff. Voyager's acceleration was increasing, but her wings were scraping the runway. If the wing tips ruptured, fuel would leak onto the tarmac, and Voyager might be consumed in flames. "92 knots, enough for takeoff." Voyager was on her way, but she had needed more than 95% of the available runway. They could only hope that this would be their last close call.
They're looking good, Dick. Very good. We have 5 days.
We were about 3.5 knots slow there, which was right on the key of abort.
And you didn't call him?
No. No. He had an airplane.
He wouldn't have listened anyway.
Yes, he would have. But he had an airplane, and I would have gone with it anyway if I was flying it.
But the aircraft's tiny winglets have been battered during takeoff, and they may be placing stress on the wings. Dick and Gina increase their flight speed and maneuver the plane so that the pressure of the wind will cause the winglets to drop off. It's a clean break with no loss of fuel. Voyager is on her way at last, escorted only by a chase plane. Soon Dick and Gina will be on their own, connected to the world below only by their radio. They will be dependent on the airwaves for important information about weather patterns. Wind conditions, among other factors, will determine the duration of their flight. If all goes well, they will be back 10 days from now on Christmas Eve.
Break.
Like every other aspect of the project, Mission Control is staffed by volunteers. One team logs the plane's performance, especially its fuel consumption. Voyager itself has no detailed gauges, which would have added too much weight. Another team is keeping track of the weather. One really bad storm, and Voyager could be destroyed.
So, wait, I'm sorry, I got the wrong one. I got one.
As the fragile airplane makes its way across the Pacific, the weather is close to perfect. Good tailwinds and very little turbulence. The expedition doctor has his own concerns.
And how about Gina's sleep?
But somehow it always comes down to the weather.
With a shear line to the north, about 20 north. There is a developing typhoon that is to the left of their path, and we are planning to vector them between the two. I think the luck that we needed is taking place, because if the typhoon were very much farther north, we would be in very serious trouble.
Skirting the typhoon, they encounter tailwinds that take them to the South China Sea. Over the Indian Ocean, they passed 12,532 miles, breaking the previous record for non-refueled flight. Now they are approaching Africa, where avoiding war zones is the top priority. Over Kenya, a chase plane managed to rendezvous with Voyager for the first time since California. It had been expensive to arrange the meeting, but the people at Mission Control were determined to examine Voyager's exterior to see how well the plane was holding up. As far as they could tell, the aircraft was intact. Despite heavy storms, Voyager made it out of Africa, then across the Atlantic and onwards to the northern coast of Brazil, 2/3 of the way home.
Everybody here is just fine. Everybody is just looking forward to when you're coming home. And I want you and Gina to give each other a great big hug for me, because I've just missed hugging you all this time.
The weathermen decided against Texas and the Gulf of Mexico. Instead, they routed Voyager across Central America and up the Pacific coast. If their luck held steady, they would be back home a day early.
Good morning, everyone. The good news is that we got the call in from Dick that he's going to arrive tomorrow morning at dark 30. That's a favorite expression of his, and it means after dawn and 30 minutes thereafter. I don't know how accurate we're going to be on that, but that's what we're looking at. I'd like to go through the arrival procedure.
What started as a local project had become a national event, and the tiny desert town responded as best it could. Over at Edwards Air Force Base, a media city sprang up on the desert floor. Each of the major networks was planning live coverage of the return. The early morning of December 23rd was cold but dry. The forecast for the next few hours was perfect, clear with only the hint of a breeze. Voyager was sighted first just after dawn by one of the project's chase planes. There could be no doubt that Dick and Gina had achieved their goal.
About 2 hands above the cloud deck.
Above in the blue?
Way up in the blue, twice as high.
Way in the blue. Oh, I got it.
They had broken one of aviation's last remaining barriers, an achievement recognized around the world.
Aren't we supposed to have stretchers right here?
I'm gonna sit here for a while, Doc.
Damn, you look good. You're ready to. Yeah. Beautiful.
There were some who said that Voyager had put to rest the fears and doubts Americans were feeling in the wake of the recent Challenger disaster. Still, on the morning of December 23rd, it was only Dick and Gina's safe return that seemed to matter.
I can't believe it.
Like returning astronauts, they were greeted warmly, then scrutinized by doctors.
How many hours did you sleep the last 24?
I did. We knew, well, we're driving up the coast, and knew it was going to be all night long, you know, with the morning arrival. And
Riva 1 to Ponderosa 5.
so I went back and
Ponderosa 5, go.
I did get about 2 or 3 rest periods, maybe an hour apiece,
Okay, thanks.
maybe a couple hours. That was the most I'd had in a long, long time.
How about an anchor steamer? We've got one in this region.
Gina had lost 9 pounds, Dick only 6.
165.
165.
164 and 4.
Blood pressure was normal. They had a slight loss of hearing from the noise of the engines, but aside from their exhaustion, they were simply happy to be home.
Blood pressure?
For the record, Dick and Gina flew 26,358 miles in 9 days, 4 minutes, and 33 seconds. They took off with 1,200 gallons of fuel, returning home with only 18. But numbers were beside the point, especially for those who joined the celebration. They responded to the physical endurance, the determination, and the ingenuity that made this journey possible.